This episode of The Young Turks is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook at audiblepodcast.com/TYT.
Paul Ryan has begun to introduce his 2012 budget. He claims that it will cut more than $4 trillion over the next decade. Now, how in the world is he going to do that without touching defense spending? And he says he's going to cut taxes even further. That's crazy. So how are you going to balance the budget? It doesn't make sense. Non-defense discretionary spending is, a little over a third of the deficit. If you cut it to zero, you still would have $1 trillion deficit. So how are you going to do that? Well, he does have a plan. He's going to cut entitlements, meaning he's going to cut not just Medicaid, but also Medicare. And I love the euphemisms that they use. He is introducing, quote, a premium support system for Medicare. When pressed on it, Ryan acknowledged to the Associated Press that the premium support system would shift more costs to Medicare recipients. So your premium support system will support you a lot less. You will have to pay a lot more. And it's not a voucher system, but it's something very close where you're going to get some degree of money and then you have to give it over to private companies, which I'm sure won't donate to the Republicans at all come the campaign season. You're going to have to give it to private companies, and then in their infinite mercy, they'll treat you, if they really have to, sometimes. Okay, so the security that you had with Medicare, gone. Premium support system where you have to pay more and get less. How you like them apples? You like apples? You like Republican apples? That's the kind of apples you're going to get. If you think that's bad for Medicare, the cuts to Medicaid could be over $1 trillion in those 10 years. Ryan says, well, we haven't given the exact number yet, so I wouldn't go around quoting that number. In other words, it's in that ballpark, okay? And so there you go. He says, I'm going to cut it, the spending, and I'm going to balance the budget by enormous cuts to the middle class and to the poor, huge cuts to Medicaid, and eventually not only just cuts to Medicare, but a system that no longer gives you security in Medicare, so almost destroying it. And by the way, he hasn't revealed what he's going to do about Social Security. He's not saying he's not going to touch it, which means he's going to touch it. Okay, so, I mean, these Republicans are President Obama's best friend. If he had a moderate Republican running against him, he'd be in a world of trouble. But he has such a radical, like near... I use the word lunatic too much, but I mean, it's so radical, such an extreme agenda that, I mean, how do you lose to these guys? They're going to rip Medicare to shreds. So, I mean, Obama has to go up and go, well, don't worry about me. I know I'm the president, and maybe I didn't create a lot of jobs because I gave too much to my banker friends, etc. But what are you going to do, vote for these lunatics? There, I said it again. We're going to destroy our entire infrastructure in terms of programs that have worked like Social Security and Medicare. You know how popular Medicare is? And he's going to take that from out underneath you? So you can't vote for the other guy. So you got to vote for President Obama. That's his strategy. It's incredibly cynical and will certainly, with the people who do vote, will be effective. The question is, can he get people out to vote? Look, you think I would ever suggest that anybody would vote for Republicans given this kind of plan? You're crazy. When I criticize President Obama, people say, oh, I know some like Obama lovers are like, oh my God, you see that? He's a Republican. Are you nuts? Who would be in favor of this? I'm nowhere near a Republican. You know who's 1,000,000 times closer to the Republicans? Your beloved President Obama. And he laughs every time because he thinks, well, what are you going to do? Vote for the other guys? That's his main strategy. And for the people who are voting, that is an effective strategy. The problem is he's not taking into account the people who won't vote because they're not energized.
Audible.com is the leading provider of audiobooks. They've got 75,000 different titles. A book I've always meant to read but didn't have time for is Guns, Germs, and Steel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to it through Audible.com. Actually, if you're a Young Turks listener, you get a free audiobook at audiblepodcast.com/TYT.